Hello, so this is my demonstration for the behavioral risk factor surveillance system dashboard. This dashboard is meant to help explore data from BRFSS, the world's largest and longest running telephone service system for collecting health-related information from adults in the US. This survey gathered data on health behaviors, chronic conditions, and preventative care from all US states, DC, and US territories. This dashboard was created using R Shiny and Plotly to explore that data. In the top left-hand corner, we have where we're going to select a question selection. I'll ordered it based on class, topic, question, and we only show the questions to the user. Question, class, and topic to the user. So here you can select any of the classes um, from the survey. If you select any of the classes, you can then select any of the topics from that class. And then based on that selection, you can also select the question from the drop-down menu, and then it'll display the question that was chosen. And then it creates this set of about eight subpanels: overall, temporal, age, gender, education, race, income, and location. And I made some modifications to each subpanel. For example, in each subpanel, it's kind of like interactive. So only in the overall subpanel shows um, which color it corresponds to. So no is the red, and yes is the blue. And if you hover over it, it shows you for this example, which is depression and chronic health indicators, with the question being if you were ever told you have a form of depression. Um, you can see that if you respond no, it was 80.8%, and it shows if you hover over it at the confidence interval. Due to the large sample size, it was 80.8 to 80.9, so pretty small confidence interval. And the same thing for the yes, and for every other uh, subpanel, it shows like the same thing, a percent and confidence interval. And another modification I made was that, for example, for location, it was originally sorted into 50 states plus DC and US territories, but I narrowed it down to a location, four locations in the US: Midwest, Northeast, South, and West, to make it more readable for users. Um, I also made sure to show every single one of the years um, to make it clear like what each year is. So this one goes from 2011 to 2023. And with the Plotly effect, you can also like zoom in on certain parts of the graph. Like if you wanted to zoom in on this part, which is 55 to 64 age range, you can look at it more closely and then double click to zoom back out. And then I also made sure to order like each make the ordering correct, because previously the income was like jumbled up together. But here I made sure to include uh making sure that goes from like less than 50,000 and then each subsequent income. And the same thing for like education. Make sure it goes from less than high school to high school, post high school, college graduate, to make it easier to look up patterns in the data. So there's several examples you can look at to look at how this dashboard is useful. And one other thing I looked at was considering having user adaptable complexity, but I feel like the current selection is already pretty um, pretty small and pretty manageable, and makes it already like pretty useful for the reader. Like for gender, there's only two genders, so you don't need to shrink it down anymore or make it any larger. For age is only six, so for region there's only four, so it's pretty small across the board. For year, there's like 10 years, but I feel like that's already pretty small. If it was multiple decades of like data and like 100 years, then I would shorten it down to like in decades. But I feel like overall it's pretty readable and manageable and clear. Um, the data is clear, the trends are clear. So there are some examples like I would, look at, for example, depression. You can look at this question and looking at the dashboard, you can see, for example, less than 15,000 income has a high percentage of yes respondents for if you have depression compared to the other brackets. It seems to be, for example, if you compare 50,000 to the highest one to the lowest one, it's like a 20% difference, which is key insight to take away. For race, the multiracial category is higher than the other categories by like 10%. And you can also look at like year, see if like depression is increasing by year, and you do kind of see like an increase of like 2% over the span of like 10 years. So that's another like thing you can look at from this dashboard. You could also look at like COPD if you get a different question to make sure this is functional. And you can see like in this trend, you can clearly see like as like age increases, the COPD rate like increase from 18, 18 years old, 1.9% all the way up to 12% or 65 plus. You can see like the income disparity that less than 15,000 has 18.3% COPD. And as you get richer, the chance decreases all the way down to 4%. So the same thing for education. You can see like a trend in this dashboard. Another one you can look at is like skin cancer, for example. You can see as your age increases, 65 plus age group has 18%, and that's a clear trend you can see from the dashboard. You can see also in the race column that white people have the highest skin cancer rate, and it's pretty high compared to other races. 11% for white people, and then if you go down, this is where like the zoom in feature is like useful. You can see the black percentage is very low, so you can go in here and you can see it's 0.6% um, there compared to 11%. You can also look at other topics, diabetes, and this one is one that has multiple like responses, like no pre-diabetes or borderline diabetes, yes, yes, pregnancy related, and you can see kind of like those differences. You can zoom into like the area and um, pick out like some of the data, and here you can see that uh, the blue block, which is yes, is increasing like as age increases. So for 65 plus, diabetes is 20%, but down to lower block, the 18 to 24 block, you can use the dashboard to see that it's only 1% compared to 20%. So some data you can some trends you can extract from the dashboard here, like education. If you have less than a high school diploma, 21% have diabetes, but uh, that decreases all the way down to 9% if you're a college grad, according to the survey. You can also look at other like classes. You can look at, for example, alcohol consumption, and you can see kind of like the age difference here. Who drinks the most alcohol according to the survey? This clearly here the 25 to 34 age group. You can see the confidence intervals, percent. You can see who, if your question was which gender drinks the most alcohol, then the survey says that it was male gender by a pretty significant margin, like 14%. You can see that it increases by education. So these are some insights you can derive from the dashboard that as income increases, alcohol consumption is also increasing. You can also take a look at HIV, there's a pretty big difference in like age. 35 to 44 age group has the highest rate, 54%, compared to other age groups that have a lower percentage. Black people have the highest HIV rate in this question, which was have you ever been tested for HIV? And you can also do the year comparison, which is seemingly increasing uh, from like 30% in 2013 all the way up to 34%. Finally, you could look at like hypertension awareness. And one interesting trend I found here is that for hypertension and high blood pressure, um, the race difference that Black people have the highest percentage here according to the dashboard, 52%, and which is higher than the other ones, which are 30, 40, in the 30s range. And by age, of course, it makes sense that it increases um, pretty substantially from 7% when you're 18 and 24 all the way up to 46% when you're 55 to 64 and 60% when you're 65 plus years old. So that's a demonstration of my dashboard and how it can be used to look at this behavioral and health data.